boys and girls. I'm Mrs. Foistel, and I am so thankful that you are joining me today. And we are going to learn more about previewing nonfiction text. Yesterday, we really just focused on what do we do when we first get that information in our hands. We really are just looking at the title, or what we did is we looked at the title and we activated what we already know about that topic. So that's just a way for us to get kind of excited about what we're reading and to think about our reading so that we can better understand what we're reading. So in today's lesson, here's the overview. I'm going to start with the learning target. We're going to look at what the experts say about why it's so important. All right, so here's what research says about the importance of previewing nonfiction before you actually read it, okay? So people who study nonfiction readers like yourself are absolutely sure that if you look at a nonfiction book, if you look it over to see what it has in it and what it might be able to teach you before actually reading it, you will learn more than young nonfiction readers who do not preview the book. So just by taking some time and paging through it a little bit and previewing it, I'll show you how to do that, you will learn more than if you just jumped right in and started reading it. All right, so let me show you what it means to preview or how to preview a nonfiction text. In a nonfiction book, it is important to view the table of contents if the book has one. Nonfiction books are usually broken up into smaller topics about the main topic the book covers. Once you look at the general topics covered in the book, thumb through the book and see what looks exciting and interesting, and that might help you add to the knowledge that you already have, and then you're ready to jump right in. All right, so we've got this book, and we're going to, of course, look at the title and think about what we already know, and then we're going to look at the headings and the table of contents. So I'm going to show you an example of how to use headings to help you. As I'm doing this, I want you to write down a few things in your journal about how to use headings and the table of contents to help you be a good nonfiction reader. So now would be a good time to pause this video, get your reader's notebook and a pencil, and I want you to jot down some notes or think about how doing this can help you become a better reader. Wonderful. Now, do you have your notebook? Good. Do you have a pencil? Fantastic. Now, I want you to look at this title of the book, and it's called Extreme Wildfire. And I want you to stop and write down what you already know about wildfires. So pause your video and write what you already know about wildfires in your notebook. I'm back. All right, thank you so much for doing that. Now, I'm wondering if you wrote down or thought of some of the things that I was thinking about as I looked at the title of this book. And I know in many parts of the country today, they are battling and trying to contain or fight wildfires. So in the United States, right now, this is a big concern for many parts of for many people in the United States. All right, so I want to look at the table of contents. Now, for me, as I think about this, I would really want to know how these fires begin and how do they battle them. So I will look at the table of contents. Now, what I like about nonfiction, among many things, is that you can go to the table of contents and you can locate information quickly. You don't have to read from beginning to end like you do in fiction. So in fiction, remember, we read chapter 1, then chapter 2, chapter 3, and you have to go in order. In nonfiction, you don't have to do that. You can locate information quickly by using the table of contents. So as I look at the table of contents, I see that it's chapter 1 is the science of wildfire, and that's kind of what I was interested in. I want to learn more about. Chapter 2, battling wildfire from the ground. Chapter 3, Battling Wildfire from the Air, The Ecology of Wildfire, Living with Wildfire, that's Chapter 5. And then it has a conclusion, resources, glossary, index, and credits. And we're going to talk about those special features in a later lesson. Now, across from these titles or chapters are the page numbers that they're located on. All right, so if I want to look at something quickly, I can go to these pages and find that information. But for now, I'm just going to look through the book. And it says that the introduction, I was in Idaho, USA, photographing firefighters as they came away from the front lines. Okay, so this I think is going to be a little bit about the author and who wrote the book. Chapter 1, The Science of Wildfires. My escape from a roaring blaze. Ooh, that might be something. I noticed they've got a map of or a picture of Idaho up here. Interesting. I might want to come back to that one. A recipe for fire. So how do these fires get started? A recipe for wildfire. Oh, during the, that looks a little bit blank. I'm just going to page 3 or page back. A recipe for fire. Being in the middle of a wildfire showed me how dangerous a force can be. That looks really interesting right here. Another text feature that'll help me understand. Seems like we're continuing during, it seems like that story might have been continued onto this page too. Fantastic. I found this book on Epic, so if you want to go through after the lesson and read and learn about wildfires, you certainly are welcome to do that. Fizzling Flames or Monster Blaze. 2 fires start in the wilderness. We're cut off on a hot, dry evening in early July 2007. Now this looks like it happened in South Dakota. Looks like it might be how one person survived, or maybe how they helped battle the flames. Here it says fire school, so maybe I will learn more about those who go to school or learn about how to fight fires. More of the same there. The big blow up of 1910, so a little bit of the history, I'm assuming. That would be interesting. I like history. Battling wildfire from the ground. Wow, there's a lot in here. Pictures are awesome, and I want to, oh, it looks like hot shots, take the heat. So much information. So, going back, boys and girls, I'm going to have to spend more time with this, but there's definitely some things that I learned. I'm really fascinated by this one, my escape from a roaring blaze. And I probably will want to go back and learn about how do you become a firefighter? What school, what training do you need to help battle these blazes? So I'm going to go back, and I have definitely taken a look at the table of contents. I'm familiar with what's in this book, and I want to learn more about how people have survived and how people train to fight these fires. And I can locate those places quickly in the book by using my table of contents. Now, let's go back and think about what we wanted to learn today. We were really focusing on previewing nonfiction text, and we wanted to focus on the headings in the table of contents. And for me, the table of contents really, and I'm wondering if you felt the same way, the table of contents allows us to locate information quickly. it also helps us to understand what information is presented in the book without having to read from the first page all the way to the end. So the table of contents is very useful to find information quickly, like I said, and to understand what is in the book. I like the headings too because it gives a little more information about what that section might be about. So the headings can give us an idea of what the content of that part of the book might be about. So I learned, so we practiced, we looked at it. Now I want you to take a moment to write in your journal what you have just learned about previewing a nonfiction book. How can it help us understand or know what's in the book? And how can it help us better understand the topic? So now is the time to pause and think about previewing a nonfiction book and what you just learned. Hi, thank you so much for taking time to do that. I'm so happy that you were able to write down some things you learned about previewing a nonfiction book. I'm going to try to summarize what we did today. So obviously we read nonfiction differently than fiction. In fiction, we read chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4, sequential. There are characters, there's a theme, there's a climax. It's all very different. You have to read it that way, otherwise you'd be lost. But in nonfiction, you don't have to read it that way. You can look at the table of contents and determine what it is you want to get to and learn about. So before reading nonfiction, it is important to preview it. And this is a time when we think about what we already know during the preview portion. We look at the table of contents and we thumb through the book. And what's amazing about this process is that research has shown that previewing helps us learn about a topic before we even read the book. It's a win-win. You get to look through the very cool pages of a nonfiction book, and you're already learning about the topic. Here's your assignment for today. You are going to read nonfiction, and I want you to look at the table of contents, and I want you to look at the headings. I want you to think about what you already know and what we might get from reading this book. And I want you to be ready to share an interesting fact you learned from your nonfiction reading today. So be ready to share that. So write that down in your journal. Thank you so much for joining me, boys and girls. I really appreciate your time, and I'm so happy that you took the effort to be here because it is important. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.